Welcome to another Seesaw Scenario with the Eric and Mark Playground Rules Show. We will be talking about the playground and the role the executives have in us connecting with our personal, financial, and social purpose. We would like to think that they don't have a say and that if we just work really hard and have faith, it will all work out. We are contending that that's not the case at all because that's not how God and things seem to work. We would like to think all we have to do is get the playground executive out of our way with aggression or kindness, but sometimes neither works. So that being said, how does God work on the playground when it comes to people connecting to their personal, financial, and social purpose, as it relates to the playground executives trying to run interference? God seems to work in one of three ways normally: directly, through situations, and through people. Substantiation to find the answer to our seesaw scenario is being drawn from a playground 2,000+ years ago. I believe the findings will show that sometimes the bully, playground executive, has a pivotal role in us connecting with our three-part purpose. God working through playground executives is shown to be true in the account of Joseph, who through his gifts garnered the support of the playground executive, the Pharaoh, to live out God's promise of our gifts making room for us and allowing us to work for high officials. This is also shown to be true with Saul's son Jonathan, who was a playground executive that helped with David's notoriety. This is also shown true for how God worked through David, who laid the groundwork along with King of Hiram and Tyre, who provided skilled laborers, and Israel's leaders, who all contributed generously to King Solomon and his God-given mission. There are people that will say that all we have to do is wait on God and he will help, but that's not how God seems to get involved, as seen in previous examples. So why are there playground gatekeepers that seem to get in the way of our professional, financial, and social purpose? And sometimes they even have to sign off on that knowledge for it to be accepted and promulgated. I can hear some listeners now saying you don't need people's approval if you have God's. But playground rules older than us beg to differ because of the nuance of how God's approval is many times received through others. The bottom line is all members of the playground, even the bullies, i.e. the playground executives, are a necessary part to connecting with our purpose and God's promise. Some may help directly, like in the previous examples, and some may only serve the purpose of presenting us with resistance to inspire faith and thoughts we wouldn't have otherwise had that were necessary for us to connect with our professional, financial, and social purpose. How say you, Mark and Sean? In no particular order. How should this new proposed understanding of the players on the playground alter and perfect our approach? Should we be trying to derail the playground executive at all costs? Or is there more to them than we would think? How say you?
This is an important question that you're asking, Eric, because there's a theological aspect, or like a theoretical aspect, I guess you could say, and a practical aspect to this. In theory, I think that most of us who are decent human beings would like to see people live in harmony, people to coexist with neighbors and live peacefully and that type of thing. We want our earth to be a good place to live on and or to live in, and then for our children, future generations, to enjoy the same fruits of the earth and the benefits of a harmonious society or civilization that we live in. So that would be the theoretical or the idealization. And I would say from that standpoint, we really shouldn't have any executives at all, because executives essentially throw off that balance. However, from a practical standpoint, that's a different scenario. If we're looking at it based on the reality of what humanity faces and what we've seen on Earth with human conflict in recent years, the wars and that kind of thing, you look at that and you say, okay, you know what, from a practical standpoint, maybe this harmony thing is not working out well, this coexisting thing with different parts of civilization involved, as much as we would like it to. So the practical application means that it's important, I think, at some point for people to become agents for change, especially when we see social injustices. The playground executive offers a test, much like God and his angel in the book of Job offered a test to the loyal servant Job, or to test his loyalty. We're tested in many ways every single day. Some people more than others, but in people in different ways than others. The executive is there as a test, as a challenge. I think that in a practical sense, human beings become too stagnant. Life becomes too repetitive. I think that the playground executive and the challenges that individual or that phenomenon throws our way fosters agents for change, or fosters an environment for change, especially to correct those social imbalances. So ultimately, we'd love to have a peaceful and harmonious society with the playground executive in a diminished role, but there needs to be a role nonetheless, because that playground executive serves as a reminder, always lurking somewhere.
Hey Eric, I love that seesaw scenario that you posed today. And Mark, I liked how you compared it between the worldly and the heavenly. So maybe I'll continue to build on that. What I was thinking, or what came to mind, is basically you have the playground executive on one side, and then you have the kingdom executive on the other side. One seeks to justify, one seeks to be more self-righteous, bringing more glory to himself. That's the playground exec. Whereas the other seeks mercy, forgiveness, humility, and is bringing more glory to God, or trying to more service people. One has a top-down approach, which is more the playground exec, whereas the kingdom exec is more of a bottoms up. If I look at technology, what's happening today is, or even with governments, with institutions, you have centralized institutions and you have decentralized institutions. And where God is moving, or where He's trying to nudge the world, is more into decentralized institutions where there is no centralized power. Because when you have centralized power, often the balance is tilted more towards the few, where they are trying to take care of themselves or their agendas or things like that. It's not towards the many. And I think this is where we want to go, right? As a kingdom exec, you want to serve as many people as possible, but it requires a balance. And where I see the balance come into play is, whether it's been in history or whether it's in the Bible, we've seen situations where there is a crisis. And when there is a crisis, often the playground exec relies on the kingdom exec for divine wisdom to come out of that situation. Whether it was Joseph, whether it was David, Solomon, like you can see all these kingdom execs played a role in history, where the worldly leaders, whether it was the Pharaoh or the kings or the leaders of those times, had to rely on them. And the playground execs are smart, right? They know and they see when their power is limited, or when they run out of options, and when they need to rely on the kingdom execs to bring them out of this crisis. So hopefully this gives you some more food of thought. Thank you again, Eric, for that scenario, and thanks, Mark, for chiming in.